This is the ZNS Network, providing radio and high-definition television services for the entire Bahamas. ZNS Network is operated by the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas. It is located at Harcourt Rusty Bethel Drive, Centerville, Nassau. Our programming is designed to inform, educate, and entertain. We invite you to join us.
The following is the preamble of the Constitution of the Bahamas, which was made on June 20th, 1973, and came into operation July 10th, 1973.
Whereas 481 years ago, the rediscovery of this family of islands, rocks and keys, heralded the rebirth of the New World. And whereas the people of this family of islands, recognizing that the preservation of their freedom will be guaranteed by a national commitment to self-discipline, industry, loyalty, unity, and an abiding respect for Christian values and the rule of law. Now, know we therefore, we the inheritors of and successors to this family of islands, recognizing the supremacy of God and believing in the fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual, do hereby proclaim in solemn praise the establishment of a free and democratic sovereign nation, founded on spiritual values, and in which no man, woman, or child shall ever be slave or bondsman to anyone, or their labor exploited, or their lives frustrated by deprivation, and do hereby provide by these articles for the indivisible unity and creation under God of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Everybody stayed in their homes, and I was really applaud. I want to say thanks to the residents for complying to the order.
Demographic data on the body, on the bag, on the photographs, on the specimens submitted. And as Coroner mentioned, this number followed them to the casket and to the grave.
So you'll be able to drive into the church. A limited amount of persons will be in the church, and then the service will be broadcast. We're going to have an LED wall. We're going to have some special sound system.
The government to borrow $250+ million. The Disaster and Recovery Authority looks to quell serious burial concerns, and Bimini shifts into its second week of lockdown. Good morning, everyone. I'm Akush Lapinder, and this is your morning edition. The government's applied for a low-cost emergency loan for $252 million. It's money that falls within the borrowing authorization approval in the supplementary Hurricane Dorian budget in February. The additional resources are said to support the ongoing coronavirus response and other budgetary options. The loan has an interest rate of 1.054%. The low-cost facility is a one-time deal that cannot be reused until repaid. An IMF board meeting is planned for early June. If the loan is approved, the funds would be made available to the government within 3 business days. Now, since COVID-19, some 27 countries have accessed financial assistance using the IMF's rapid financing instrument. Meantime, the global pandemic to weigh heavily on local revenue and expenditure estimates when the government presents its 2020-2021 budget this Wednesday. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the Honourable Peter Turnquest, making that clear, adding that proper provisions will be made to protect the health and safety of all Bahamians and residents and to provide sufficient social support. The government, he said, will also do what it must to stabilize the domestic economy, maximize employment, and transform this crisis into opportunity for future recovery. Back in March, just over $120 million was allocated for a 3-month COVID-19 response. The government's approved $5.7 million in tax relief that supported payroll expenses for non-executive employees at 76 large employers. The companies represent over 6,500 non-executive employees who may have been laid off. The budget presentation takes place this Wednesday. Well, extended hours and days for exempted businesses and services kick in today. For plant nurseries, that's Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Hardware, lumber, plumbing, home and hurricane awnings and hurricane protection businesses, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Auto parts stores have been giving clearance to open 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., clearing banks and post office savings banks 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The same applies in the case of money transmission businesses, insurance companies, and financial services. The Prime Minister also announcing in a release that medical and health service facilities may provide non-emergency health services, that is, in accordance with operating guidelines of the Medical Association of the Bahamas and the Ministry of Health. Dry cleaners have also now been exempted to operate Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. All this as the country transitions into phase 2 of its 5-phase reopening plan that includes the resumption of business operations in the Family Islands with no COVID-19 cases, an increase in delivery and curbside operations, the addition of healthcare services and manufacturing industries, and the opening of worship services. Well, in terms of COVID numbers, we have another 3 cases, putting the total in the triple digits to 100. The new cases all out of New Providence, the youngest of the trio, an 8-year-old boy, also infected a 25-year-old woman and a 27-year-old man, all isolating at home. As has been the case, investigations of these new cases continue. Globally, we're looking at 5.5 million cases, with the recovered at 2.3 million. Well, an update from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs indicates that all returning nationals and residents on last week's flight out of South Florida were taken to the quarantine facilities in both Grand Bahama and New Providence. At the facilities, they were assessed to determine who would be placed in government quarantine and who would be permitted to self-quarantine. 14 people were placed in government quarantine in Grand Bahama and 42 here in the capital. Nationals and residents displaced abroad and wishing to return home are reminded to send their full contact information to covid19travel@bahamas.gov.bs. Now, if nationals and residents plan to return home on Bahamas Air, the COVID-19 test results should also be sent in advance of the travel date to covid19@bahamasair.com. Well, residents over in Bimini have completed the first full week in lockdown. They're now entering the second phase of that mandatory process after the island accounted for 13 COVID-19 cases. Here's Island Administrator Cleola Pinder with how things are going.
It went very well. Everything was organized and planned, and persons did not feel as if they didn't have access to anything that they would have needed. And so it went very well. Persons utilized the hotline, calling in for items that they may have needed, or whether it was cooking gas or whether it was the canned gas or the portable stove. Whatever the needs were, if it was a hot meal, somebody didn't have the means of cooking. So, persons were calling in. I think I had 1 or 2 persons that needed fuel for their generators, and so the Defense Force was able to assist. So it went very well the first week.
Pinder says as Biminites begin the next 7 days in lockdown, corporate residents of the island are also stepping in to assist however they can.
We have one of our popular bakeries here, Charlie's Bread. He's donating bread to the seniors this week. And I guess those vulnerable among us, we have about 283 seniors. And so I'm not sure if he's going to bake that many bread, but he will be baking bread tomorrow morning. We have the Bimini Innovations Distribution Depot, one of the little businesses here on the island. They make jams, and so we'll be providing jams to go along with that bread. This weekend, we are expecting 2 mailboats in. So we're organizing where we would have asked persons to register with the mailboats so that we have their names and their phone contacts. Persons would have had to pay their freight in Nassau for the most part so that we can just deliver the packages to the individuals who may have packages coming on the boat because, of course, nobody will be allowed to come and collect their packages. The pantry, we usually stock it every few days. We've been going into the food stores and shopping and replenishing the pantry, but now we have about 14 pallets, actually, of food coming on the U.S. mailboat that was donated, and so the pantry is going to be really stocked. And so we are prepared for the second week, and hopefully all will go well.
Janine Weiss-Gomez.
Well, still to come, the challenge to properly identify the remains of those Abaco residents laid to rest when the morning edition returns.
I'm Mario Nuri, inviting you to a familiar walk, helping to build a more weather-ready Bahamas. Join us with Carolyn Turnquest, Director General of the Bahamas Red Cross, Captain Stephen Russell, Director of NEMA, and meteorologist Wayne Neely. We welcome you to be a part of our journey as we continue working together for a more resilient Bahamas.
We play just like your kids. We text just like your kids. We learn. We even cook. We take selfies. We have hobbies. And we love sports. In every way, we are just like everyone else and enjoy the same things and live our lives every day, just like you do. So if you happen to meet us, treat us just like everyone else. Because at the end of the day, we're just like you. Living life with Down syndrome is simply living. To learn more about Down syndrome, call 727-2105. This message is brought to you by the Grand Bahama Down Syndrome Society.
When the days are cold and the cards all fold and the saints we see are all made of gold. When your dreams all fail and the ones we hail are the worst of all and the bloods run stale. When the days are cold and the cards all fold and the saints we see are all made of gold. When your dreams all fail and the ones we hail are the worst of all and the bloods run stale. I wanna hide the truth.
Let's stay COVID-free. Remember the 3 S's: sanitize, social distance, and stay inside.
Officials of the Disaster Reconstruction and Authority seeking to bring some clarity to the process surrounding the burial of 55 unidentified Hurricane Dorian victims this past Friday amid mounting queries from relatives of the deceased and concerned residents. Desmond Saunders has the story.
Janine Weish Gomez from the coroner's office says in the aftermath of Killer Storm Dorian, her team, along with the Royal Bahamas Police Force and local pathologists, moved swiftly in identifying the victims. She highlighted other areas of concerns for her department, including the removal and recovery of Dorian victims.
As soon as was reasonably practical after Dorian, those victims that were and could have been identified were released to family members. We are currently awaiting DNA to determine the identity of a number of the victims. However, in early March, at the request of the Disaster Release Committee, a number of victims were in fact released for burial. To date, inquiries are still ongoing, and an inquest will be given the highest priority and will commence immediately after all the relevant inquiries have been concluded.
Pathologist from the Royal Bahamas Police Force, Karen Sands, says multiple trips were made to Abaco to identify victims.
This was and is an ongoing exercise, and multiple trips to Abaco were made to examine victims, as already stated. Each victim had a unique identifying number, and that was part of that case that went on the demographic data, on the body, on the bag, on the photographs, on the specimens submitted. And as coroner mentioned, this number followed them to the casket and to the grave.
Assistant Police Commissioner Solomon Cash says a process of identifying victims still remains a challenge. DNA and blood samples of Dorian victims have been sent to an international forensic laboratory for testing, and the results are pending.
We were able to fingerprint all of the recovered bodies. Those prints were run in our APHIS, a machine. We got no match on any of the fingerprints. We then rely on dental records. That was also a process that we engaged our forensic teams with. We were unsuccessful. And finally, we moved to the DNA stage.
The Bahamas United Morticians Association was engaged by the DRA to execute the burial. Chairperson of the Disaster Reconstruction Authority, Catherine Forbes-Smith, says her team has followed the best standards and protocols for this exercise. The remains of the 55 unidentified victims were recovered in Abaco. Their remains were stored in a refrigerated mobile morgue until burial at the public cemetery on the SC Boodle Highway, Central Pines. The victims were individually interred, and work is being carried out at the burial site in Abaco. Desmond Saunders, ZNS Network News.
Well, Deputy Chairman of the Disaster Reconstruction Authority, Algernon Cargill, says COVID-19 initially presented some challenge in arranging a burial service for Abaco residents. The authority, he said, obtained authorization to increase the number of burial participants from 10 to 25. Additionally, he says a number of adjustments were made.
Initially, our plans included a burial in the church service with all of the family members who were identified or anyone who really wanted to attend participating in the funeral service. Since the plans to hold this large ecumenical service were finalized, we were further challenged with the issue of COVID-19. Since COVID-19, and the orders restricted us from having that large service.
Now, the burial service costing some $200,000. Cargill says his organization worked with various stakeholders, including the Bahamas Morticians and Funeral Directors Association, to ensure the needs of family members were met.
So what we did was we organized a tent at the bottom of the hill because the burial site was on a hill, and that tent was there for the family members. And we wanted to ensure simultaneously that we had a very respectful and dignified funeral event. And despite the organized protests that were there, I think there were about 30 persons protesting on an attempt to disrupt the service. Again, I want to thank Archdeacon Keith Cartwright for his support in not only ensuring that the event was extremely religious, but the event was befitting of what the DRA, together with the religious leaders, had planned.
Well, are children at risk of tooth decay? Well, as the economic fallout continues to unfold due to COVID-19 measures, one effect is on the oral health of children. In the first of a two-part series, we look at the challenges parents face making ends meet and how poor food choices are threatening children. Lloyd Allen has the story.
Making ends meet is a challenge for many now facing uncertain financial prospects. Last week, unemployment claims were pegged at around 30,000, according to the minister at the helm of the National Insurance Board, the Honorable Brenzel Rowe. A chilling result of this downturn in employment are those who have been forced to forego many essentials like healthier food options. This mother, who chose not to appear on camera, says it's been a struggle after losing her job. She has now been forced to survive by way of assistance from the Ministry of Social Services.
They put me on the monthly. I have 2 kids, but they put me on the monthly for my first. They give me $105, but I normally get $80 on the monthly card. So that was a help. It was a big help, but it wasn't. I wouldn't complain or be ungrateful, but it ain't enough.
When asked when she last took her children to the dentist, she had this response.
I can't take them to the dentist. I wasn't able to afford it. My major priority is to have a roof over their head, food in the house, so that they could eat and survive.
Another family, the Taylors, say things are not as bad for them as they try to maintain healthy food options, especially during lockdown periods.
Basically, I've just incorporated more fruits and vegetables. I try to do vegetable with every meal, and we eat fruits throughout the day.
However, she admits that the desire to satisfy her daughter remains an uphill battle.
She's a daddy's girl, so in any event, she know I'm not going to give her the sweets. So she would go to him, and then he would give it to her. So then it becomes a battle because I'm always saying to him, you know she shouldn't have these things. Why you keep giving it to her?
On top of this concern, Taylor adds that her daughter has a growing dental problem. Her greatest fear, a flare-up during lockdown.
It scares me because I know she don't handle pain well. So I don't want to wait until it gets to that point before I deal with it. She needs to go to the dentist as we speak.
Wilmot Taylor says his desire has always been in making his young daughter happy.
It's just, I don't know, just a daddy's girl. I'm trying my best to, break that.
Across the board, many parents have agreed that tough times have forced them to cut back, this stark reality having many implications, some obvious and some hidden. Things like potato chips, sweets, chocolate, soda, and other less healthy food options are attacking the oral health of vulnerable youngsters. One local pediatric dentist shares, since COVID-19 restrictions, poor eating habits resulting in the big C, cavities. In part 2 of this series, we hear from Dr. Kristen Darville on emergency dental procedures done during COVID-19 and how parents can fight back. For the morning edition, Lloyd Allen, ZNS Network News.
Well, we spoke to a few barbers who are hoping to return to work. Today, we take a look at their industry professionals who are equally eager to get back to business. While some say the loss in income has been great, they're optimistic. Jimenita Swain has the story.
I definitely plan to adhere to all of the protocols necessary to protect myself and my clients. Both myself and my clients would need to wear a mask. We sanitize all of our products, all of our equipment, but we also want to make sure that hand washing is adhered to properly. We don't want to have persons waiting in the area where persons are being serviced. So we want to make sure that we're working one-on-one.
Shanice Evans is a cosmetologist and nail technician in a local salon. Like her fellow professionals, she is eager to get back to work. Makeup is another area which some may say is not essential as others, but makeup artist Lucina Sawyer says keeping things hygienic is important.
I am making sure that I have, all the systems in place to keep everything clean. And I'm also informing my clients that, if you feel sick or if you feel anything that, if you're coming down with something, like, just do us both a favor and just, cancel the appointment. Like, don't come to your appointment or anything. Like, just stuff like that.
Certified massage therapist and esthetician Carlethia Thurston touches on adjustments clients can expect at her spa.
With the spa that I manage in particular, we are going to start a cleansing ritual that encourages the guests to sanitize before they actually come in for their services. We also have rituals pertaining to the use of saunas, the use of steam rooms, so that we can be able to actually cleanse the body before they actually have the massage. We're also going to implement more of the PPEs in our manicure, pedicure procedures, as well as massages.
Thurston says customers visiting the spa will see a big difference when business resumes as a result of the COVID-19 protocols. However, she notes the loss of revenue has been great.
There's no income at all. And then we also have some massage therapists, as well as estheticians, only work on commission. So if you don't have any monies coming in, then, there's nothing coming out, basically. So it's been a very big loss, but, we are trying to find some ways in order for us to, maintain the standards so that we can be able to, safeguard ourselves.
Well, coming up, exactly how are churches preparing for divine services across the country? We'll tell you more when the Morning Edition returns.
There's a spark of greatness in each of us. That spark is called personality. Individual gifts and talents provide the fuel to set that spark ablaze. Each child has the right to an education which values their personality and nurtures their talents, while teaching them to be respectful to their parents and their cultures.
Hungry, you fed me. Naked, you clothed me. They will know us by our love.
Can't imagine how it felt as you lay there. Through the dark, through the heat, through the cold. With your friend by your side, held his hand and watched him die. And you cried as you prayed for his soul.
I can't imagine how it felt as you stood there through the winds that would just not go away. Kiss my wife, tell my son, my work on earth is done. You're the one that can still hear them say, oh.
Is there anybody out there listening? And does anybody know my name? No, my friend, we were not there, but we're here and we care. And yes, we feel your pain. Oh, yeah. And yes, we feel your pain.
This public service announcement is brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
The Ministry of Education, in conjunction with the Ministry of Health, advises students, teachers, administrators, and staff to adhere to the following steps in an effort to minimize the risk of COVID-19, also known as the coronavirus. Step 1. Be sure to wash hands before and after you eat, after using the bathroom, touching money, shaking hands, or emptying the trash. You may also use hand sanitizers throughout the day. Frequently wash hands with soap and water for 20 seconds and rinse with clean water. Dry hands with clean paper towels. Step 2. Cough or sneeze into your elbow or sleeve and not into your hands or into the ear. or cover your nose or mouth with a tissue. Immediately dispose of the tissue into the trash. Be sure to wash your hands thoroughly afterwards. Step 3. Do not drink from the same cans, bottles, or cups of other persons. Do not share eating utensils, such as forks and spoons. Do not share school supplies, such as pencils or pens. Step 4. Germs can live on many surfaces. Be sure to wipe and disinfect desks, school supplies, railings, and other surfaces that are regularly touched by others. Step 5. Avoid close contact with anyone who is coughing and sneezing. Let's do what we can to help minimize the risk of the coronavirus.
This public service announcement is brought to you by the Communications section of the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
Inclement weather and all, several churches yesterday staged outdoor services. This having been given the green light to reopen under strict social distancing protocols and conditions to help reduce the spread of COVID-19. Apostle Henry Higgins, who heads Creative Christian Arts International Ministry, says he's in agreement with the new protocols.
This is our first service this morning. Once the government had given us the release, we have been in pre-preparation for different scenarios. So this is one of the reasons why we were able to execute. And a matter of fact, this is what God told me to do. So therefore, we're here. This is the first service. I think the turnout was extremely good. This is the time for the church to let the voice be heard. Even in our community, sometimes churches don't go in their community. We are one of the churches that in this particular community, they know us. We're always door to door.
Corona came to teach us something. We all believe it happened for a reason. We don't know that reason. But what we do know is that things are never going to go ahead and be the same again.
I think, well, the start of the Bible says, do not neglect the assembling of the saints. And what he's doing now is something good. And it's reaching a lot of people, as you can see in the parking lot.
Others held a first service after several weeks of closure.
I believe it's an indication of where the church started and it needs to get back to. Growing up as a little boy in Church of God of Prophecy, we were always used to street meetings and outdoor services. And it seems that we've lost. And I always say, I think because of the prayer and the word that was used on the street back in those days, that helped to keep our crime situation down. It helped to keep our people seen because there was always a word going on. And I believe God is trying to get us back to basics.
Well, even though some churches reopened across the country, others opted to continue with virtual services. Bahamas Faith Ministries International was one of them. For instance, Senior Pastor Dave Burrows, in a virtual address, said the church will move with a phased reopening to services.
Phase 2, which begins next week, is our drive-in service. So you'll be able to drive into the church. A limited amount of persons will be in the church, and then the service will be broadcast. We're going to have an LED wall. We're going to have some special sound system, a number of things. So this is going to be our first drive-in service. Now, I know many of you want to meet at church, you want a regular service, but we know that the government doesn't allow that right now. Their protocol says that we can have a limited amount of persons in church, and then we now can have drive-in. So drive-in is the new phase.
Burrows also explains what plans the church has in place.
As soon as the government allows, then we will have a limited capacity service, which would be about 25%. But that's a few weeks down the road. So we begin with this phase, and it's exciting because, this situation has forced us to be creative, to adapt to the situation. And you remember that in all things we are overcomers. So we can't allow any situation to master us. We take dominion over situations. So in this case, what we've done is we have made a decision that we're going to use our creativity and we're going to use the innovative tools that we have to bring you the best experience. Initially, we were just streaming live, but now we're moving in phases. So this is an exciting time.
Well, your morning pastoral motivation is brought to you by Apostle Preston Rudolph, Senior Pastor of One Accord Pentecostal Prayer Ministries.
In times of trouble and despair, it is during moments like these we can find substance in the Word of God. This morning, our devotion comes from Psalms 91. And I want to use for our topic for a short period of time, God is our protector. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in the time of trouble, according to Psalms 46. A shelter when we are afraid. The writer's faith in God as protector would carry him through all the dangers and fears of life. This should be a picture of our trust in these difficult times in which we are facing during this COVID-19 pandemic that is upon us. Though throughout the world and indeed upon in all the nation, trading all our fears, amen, for faith in Christ Jesus. No matter how intense our fears may become, to do this, we as a people and nation must continue to dwell under the shadows of the Almighty. That's why the psalmist declare in the 91st division of the Psalms of David, he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High God shall abide under the shadows of the Almighty. By considering ourselves to his protection and pledging our daily devotion to him, we will be kept safe in his arms. One of the functions of angel is to watch over believers, Hebrews 1:14. It is comforting to know, however, that God watches over us even in times of great stress and fear and despair. And so, my family and friends, brothers and sisters, let us not, amen, be troubled in our hearts, but let us continue to put our trust and our hope and all of our confidence in God. And through all of this, he will continue to strengthen us and continue to protect us during these difficult times in which we are living in. And so as you go through the remaining portion of this day, I encourage you today to continue to put your trust in God. And if you put your trust in God, I guarantee you everything will be just all right. God bless you today in Jesus' name.
Based tourism supplies almost $50 million in revenue for Androsians every year. These priceless resources will continue to provide renewable benefits for thousands of people for years to come, as long as we take long-term action to preserve what's rightfully ours. The natural environment has played a vital role in our culture and economy for generations. Let's take care of nature, and nature will take care of us.
COVID-19 continues to impact the Bahamas and the world. ZNS Network is here to keep you informed on this growing pandemic.
We are in a race against time.
With team coverage, hourly updates, news, and special reports with information that's important to you. ZNS Network is your best choice for COVID-19 coverage. No other station covers the Bahamas better.
Did you know that there are over 30,000 Bahamians with diabetes and another 23,000 with
pre-diabetes. Each year, this number is expected to increase. Many people who have diabetes are unaware. If you are having blurry vision, feeling thirsty, urinating frequently, or are unusually tired or losing weight despite a healthy diet, you may have diabetes. If you have a parent or sibling that has diabetes, you are also at an increased risk of developing diabetes. If you have noticed any of these symptoms, it is important to see your doctor, who will perform the necessary tests to confirm the diagnosis. Together, we can beat diabetes.
Hello, my name is Mikhail Roland, and I am 7 years old. I know that COVID-19 is on everyone's mind. We have to follow all guidelines set by the government in order to slow the spread of the virus. Remember to wear your homemade face masks, wash your hands frequently, cover your coughs and sneezes, and practice social distancing by staying at least 6 feet away from each other. But most importantly, stay inside. I repeat, stay inside. Only leave your home for emergencies or to purchase essential items. Let's all work together to get rid of COVID-19. 242, it's not fun, but it must be done. Thank you, and bye-bye.
This BSA was brought to you by the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas and C-Rolls Video.
The Ministry of Health wishes to advise members of the public that prevention is key during this flu season. Practicing good cough hygiene can make the difference between you and your loved ones getting the flu or spreading the influenza virus. Good cough hygiene habits include covering your mouth and nose with a tissue when coughing or sneezing, and proper disposal of the tissue in a trash bin. Coughing or sneezing into your upper sleeve near your inner elbow and not your hands when a tissue is not available. Avoiding the use of handkerchiefs and towels as they hold germs, becoming a nest for the virus. And frequently washing your hands with soap and water, which is listed as one of the most important steps you can take to avoid getting sick and passing the virus on to others. If you have any questions about how to practice good cough hygiene to avoid catching or spreading the flu, contact your nearest community clinic or the Health Education Division at the Ministry of Health. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health in partnership with the Public Hospitals Authority.
Efforts to fully restore, construct, and rehabilitate works to water and sewage networks in hurricane-ravaged Treasure Key in Marsh Harbor, Abaco can continue now that 2 contracts have been signed, one for $961,000+ with Island Site Development. This will fund the supply and installation of approximately 1,600 feet of 2-inch pipe, 1,000 feet of 4-inch pipe, and 2,500 feet of 10-inch pipe in Treasure Key, the termination and reinstallation of approximately 600 service laterals and valve installations, and exploratory excavations. A $1.4 million contract's also been signed with Bill Simmons Construction for similar works in East and West Marsh Harbor. WSC Executive Chairman Adrian Gibson encouraged both contractors to give opportunities for jobs to local Abaconians. The works are to be completed within 90 days from the day they began. The contracts are funded by $15 million derived from an Inter-American Development Bank loan post-Hurricane Dorian. While the General Post Office among those outlets opening today, our Lloyd Allen is checking out the situation there. Lloyd?
Hey, good morning, McCushla, and good morning, Bahamas. Of course, it's a great day here in New Providence today as many businesses are included in the closer movement of that phase 2 of the reopening of the economy, and included is the post office, the General Post Office. Now, I spoke with the Postmaster General earlier, who said that many of the staff, they're still on a staggered shift schedule, but that's, again, in lines with social distancing protocols. But across the board, plant nurseries are operating from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Hardware, lumber, plumbing, home and hardware, awning, and hurricane protection businesses from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Auto Parts Store, finally, they're opening now from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Clearing banks and post offices, of course, like the one we're at today, and money transmission businesses, insurance companies, financial services, all from 9 a.m. up until 5 p.m. Now, of course, more details will be revealed in line with this, but this is definitely some good news for the economy as we continue to move closer to the opening of our economy. Reporting here from the General Post Office, Blue Hill Road, Lloyd Allen, McCushla, back to you in studio.
Well, thanks, Lloyd. Let's get you working out this Monday. And for that, we turn to Natasha Brown.
Hi, good morning. This is Downtown, and thank you for joining me. There is nothing impossible for those who are willing to try. This is our final week of May, and you know what that means? Every morning, God wakes us up. We have to leave everything on this workout floor. With that being said, let's get right into these 5 dynamic exercises I have for us. Let's get right into child's pose, because remember now, we gotta stretch. So sit right now into it. Extend the hands all the way and hold it. 8 seconds. 7. Let's take the right hand underneath. Switch, bring the left hand. We gotta warm that back. We've been sitting probably for a couple of days. Let's come forward and curl the toes. Yes, get the back out right here. Very good. Let's get right into our first exercise. So what we're going to do is walking high knees with alternating elbow touches right here. So you want to do this for 50. That's right. 25 per leg. So we got 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now we're going to take it right down to our towels. So we're gliding. Again, we're going to glide for 20. You want to do this for 50, 25 per leg. Make sure your feet are in the center of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's move this out of the way. Now let's get into the back. Take it all the way down. Hold it here. Make sure you are nice and long. Hold the arms here. You're going to raise up. Open to the side. Come up here. Forward. Side. 2. Forward. Side. 3. Forward. Side. 4. Forward. Side. 5. Forward. Side. 6. Forward. Side. 7. Forward. Side. 8. Forward. Side. 9. Forward. And side. 10. Which sets us right up for a butt glue exercise. On the elbows. Now we're going to alternate. One at a time. Make sure you're squeezing up top. This is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Take it off the elbows right up into a handstand. Now we alternate fire hydrants for 10. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And of course, we've got abdominals. Let's go ahead and sit it. heaven. Hold this in. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. There you have it. Tomorrow is for my recycled teenagers. Remember, we've got that routine, and we're going to add 2 additional dance moves for that. Until next time, I am downtown Natasha Brown, keeping you healthy, fit, and energized. The secret of our health lies in our daily routine. Enjoy.
Chief of Service, Accident and Emergency, Nassau, Bahamas. Corona cannot hold us down.
Self-isolation means taking simple steps to avoid close contact with other people as much as possible, as you would with the seasonal flu. If you've been in close contact with somebody confirmed with COVID-19 or suspect that you have it, self-isolate for 14 days. You can self-isolate by staying indoors and away from family for 14 days. Choose a well-ventilated room with a closed door. Household members should stay in a different room, or if that is not possible, maintain a distance of at least 3 feet. Use a sealed waste basket and double bag your waste before disposal. Limit movement in your house. Stay in your assigned space away from the rest of the household. The caretaker will bring food and anything else you need. Use separate cookery and cutlery. Use a separate bathroom and clean it regularly. Use separate towels, separate cleaning linens, and clothing. If you are in need of care by household members, limit the number of caregivers. Assign one person who is in good health and has minimum risk conditions. Most importantly, remember, do not invite others over. Should you or anyone you know feel that you've been exposed to the coronavirus, contact the COVID-19 hotline at the Ministry of Health immediately. To reach us, call 376-9350, 376-9387, 300-2619, or our 24-hour hotline at 502-7382. For more information, visit covid19.gov.bs.
This public service announcement was brought to you by the Ministry of Health and this television station.
This weather report is sponsored by Bank of the Bahamas, the bank of solutions.
Now to your daily home videos.
Come on, look me, but me no want her. Girl, me no want. Come on, look me, but me no want her. So anybody see her, tell her stay far.
Well, just a reminder, keep those videos and pictures coming in on how you're passing the time in the government-imposed lockdown, or if you want to salute those on the front line, the number 477-0546. And remember to stay tuned to the ZMS Network, your best choice for local, regional, and international COVID-19 coverage. We're the only station providing you with live radio and television updates throughout the day, giving you up-to-the-minute information. Our coverage continues at 10 on radio and then on the television network. And before we leave you this morning, we'd like to send happy birthday greetings to our audio technician, Thad Rowe. Good morning, everyone.
Nassau's got a whole lot of soda. Feel right. Mini skirts, maxi skirts, and afro hairdo. People doing their own thing and don't care about me or you. Nassau's gone funky. Nassau's got soul now. Oh yeah. And we got a doggone beat now. We're gonna take care of business too. Listen to the drummer playing his beat. Listen to the bass man go get that same groove every beat. Listen to the...
Hi, my name is Callie, and I am 5 years old. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about the coronavirus. The coronavirus is a little tiny invader that gets into your body and makes you really, really sick. Some people get over it, some people don't. This virus is so tricky, it makes you think you have the flu. So you may experience a high fever, difficulty breathing, and tiredness. But don't worry. Here are some steps to protect you from the coronavirus. Step 1, wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. If you don't have soap and water, use hand sanitizer. Step 2, if you need to cough or sneeze, do it in your elbow. Achoo! Step 3, avoid touching your eyes, your nose, and your mouth. Step 4, eat healthy foods to make you big and strong. Step 5, listen to your mommies and daddies to keep you safe from the coronavirus. Bye, be safe, stay inside.
This public service announcement was brought to you by the Ministry of Health and Bahamas Information Services.
I work primarily in performance and installation, mainly because my roots as an artist began in Junkanoo about 15 years ago, but formally as an artist, I can say that I've been producing for about 7 years. When I was a wee tot about 10 years ago, a Junkanoo Shack was built across the street from my house, and not surprisingly, this Junkanoo Shack was the one family Junkanoo group and organization. And through this organization, I met Jackson Burnside, who was very influential in pushing me to kind of explore the creative side of myself. And ever since, I really kind of aspired, to be like him. And to really kind of follow this passion that I have. And from there, I began making art. Well, for me, winning Central Bank in 2013 really was an affirmation that, you know, that we have a diverse set of art making practices, and that it's okay to be an artist that works in very ephemeral mediums, and that performance practices are just as good as painting or sculptural practices. So for me, like, winning Central Bank, like, to me, actually, that was like, you know, affirmation that I'm doing something right and to keep going. I think what makes my practice relevant or important within this context is the fact that there's like this sense of like interaction or obligation to the audience that the work is being made for. The fact that the work is not autonomous and it's semi-dependent upon the viewer. And also the fact that it's critical and it's aware of its environment. I think my work is really questioning what we define Bahamian art as, and is presenting new answers or new possibilities to what this equation is. I think I have a multidisciplinary practice that isn't necessarily grounded in materiality, but I am very interested in performance, in reciprocal interactions, and in pieces that engage the audience, sometimes in very obvious ways, other times in more subliminal ways. But nevertheless, at the end of the day, I think for me, my work is always about participation. I think we're going through this very interesting transition, this almost changing of the guards, because when I started making art a few years back, you know, we were stuck in a very traditional mindset of like painting, landscape, narrative artwork. And now I notice that there's so much more happening. There's a lot of artists. There's Jody Minnis that's working, you know, in performance. There's artists like Veronica Dorset that are exploring installation. And I think with that, you know, a lot of these artists that are going off to school and coming back are really becoming like a major like support and anchor to the art community, because not only are their practices changing, but people around them, it's almost like a ripple effect is happening. My name is Jeffrey Maris, and I am a sculptor.
You're watching the ZNS Network, the People's Station.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Agriculture Now. I'm Carla Palmer. Backyard farming, that's the focus of this episode. While there's no reliable data as to just how many persons engage in backyard farming here in the Bahamas, what is under